friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, this is probably a different view for most of you if you haven't been following my videos from the time I first started my channel. I don't shoot very many videos in here, but I wanted to do an update video on my off-grid kitchen, which is actually in our living room. So right here is our, what once was, when this house was built in 1965, was a fireplace that before we got the place had a wood stove insert put into it. And then down the road, after we eventually had a mason come in and redo the brickwork so we could have a freestanding wood stove, which would actually also give us cooking space. And over the years, I keep kind of improving on this little area to make it more user-friendly to me, as this is my, in the wintertime, this pretty much becomes my kitchen. And so I wanted to kind of cover some of this stuff here. By the way, some of the you'll see some other video clips and photos for a better view, because my lighting here in the living room, even with our big window right there, especially this time of year when it's nothing but clouds out there, it can be pretty dark. But up here, a lot of, besides the oil lanterns, I have 2 oil lanterns up here, but a lot of the glasses you'll see up here are ones that Patrick collected when he was in the service, and he was stationed in Germany. So he collected quite a few wine and beer glasses while he was there. So I've managed not to break any of them in the 34 years that we've been married, if you can believe that. So I just want to explain a little bit of some of this here. So what you're seeing hanging up here, these are my hand crocheted skillet handle covers. And then these are used for things with shorter, wider handles, like this water pot right here, or the coffee or the tea. This coffee pot, by the way, it's the one that we keep the coffee warm in. And then I have another, and yes, everything is stainless steel. I have this one I use for actually perking the coffee in. The reason why I use this for perking is because it has a flat bottom. Whenever you're doing something on top of a wood stove, you want it to have a flat bottom, not a ridged bottom like your standard camp coffee pot like that one is. That one I picked up at a garage sale. That one's great for keeping the coffee warm. And you'll see it's kind of slanted, sitting at an angle. It's because I actually have it sitting propped up just a little bit on a grate there. Now the grate back in here I use for doing such things, or baking on. So if I'm making a casserole, a soup, a sauce, something, and I don't want it directly on the wood stove getting too hot, that is why that is there. I can shove it back in there. It's this nice little alcove back there that gets heat from all around it, from the stovepipe and more. And so that makes it a really great place for baking or just keeping things warm. And then, as I mentioned, my water pot here, this here is perpetually here, is always here. So when we had our recent power outage, this was used for washing dishes, and also for a shower. So when that happens, I actually have a big stock pot that I put in the tub. I'll put the hot water from this pot and then top it off with cold water, and then I just use a cup. I know there's many other great ways, and we actually had a way we used to use years ago with a pump that we had hooked up to our solar power until the pump went bad and we never got a new one. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And by the way, solar showers, we do have one. We've never used it because whenever we need something like that, it's usually in the middle of winter when we have absolutely no sun whatsoever, because that's when the power is going to go out. And for those of you who are new to my channel, we live near a rainforest. We get a low average of 120 inches of rain every year. That is a low average. It can be as much as 160. And if you don't know how that compares to your area, just look it up. Because some people who live in Seattle or maybe even Anacortes, Oregon, they might think they get a lot of rain until they actually look up and compare the differences. We get 3 times as much rain as those areas, 2 to 3 times, depending on where you're at. Back here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a fan. It's one of those eco fans, and that works really well for pushing the warm air from the back and carrying it out into the house. And that does not run on electricity. It actually it generates electricity from the heat from the stove itself. So it's a really nice thing to have. We had one of the very first models. It was a small one. We used it for a long time, and then it finally just kind of quit working because, you know, it still has components and moving parts, and eventually it just doesn't work anymore. So we finally upgraded and got this one here. It's the bigger size one. And so it actually pushes more air out at a faster rate. Let me explain real quickly. We started with, we had the insert, which was really only good for drying laundry, which you'll see up here. I have two clotheslines, and there's clothespins all over them. I just wanted to shoot this video before I hung my laundry up. So that's, you know, I don't have anything on there right now. I made sure everything was off so I could shoot this video so nothing was in the way. Yeah, the insert, I could dry clothes on it. We could heat the house, but because it's an insert, there was no shelf. There was nothing I could cook on. The only thing I could use for when we absolutely had to was to cook inside of it, which can be kind of messy. And though cast iron with a lid can be a good option for that, it was such a small area. The only thing we could really do was wrap things in foil when we absolutely had to. We only thankfully had to do that one time. Well, then we had a freestanding wood stove that was much smaller that used to be in my dance. It was when we bought this place, there used to be a family room in there. It had been a 2-car garage that had been converted to a family room, and they'd put a wood stove in there, a freestanding wood stove. But when I decided to take that room and use it as a dance studio, that had to come out. And so we saved it, thankfully. And when we did this, we had that smaller freestanding stove in here. But it was a step top. It worked great, but I couldn't do a lot. I couldn't have like a big pot like this on there because the shelves were just narrow. So the 2 steps, I could only put small pots. I did as much as I could on there, but yeah, I could not keep a big pot of water like this on there, or even do a turkey on there, or a chicken like I can do on this one. So then eventually we saved up our money and we were able to buy this particular, we got the biggest one we could to fit in this area. They had a nice flat area that I could do everything on. In fact, when I have this all nice and clean and well, I use coconut oil to treat the top of it. And then I will actually cook tortillas directly on this source. I love doing the tortillas directly on here. They cook up faster and better than using a cast iron pan. Like I do that sometimes, but cooking them directly on the wood stove is better. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the other things surrounding this. So over on this side, you won't be able to see it in the video, but I got a video clip here. I have 2 drying racks that Patrick made out of old bed rails, and I have them stacked on top of each other. The bottom rack mostly has seeds that I've collected from the garden that dry there. And then the top one is what I use for drying whatever, whether it be orange peels. Currently what I have on there is some organic ginger that I bought from Azure Standard and cut it up, and then I'm drying it there. And then the kitchen towel, you'll see, I change it out periodically. That is there to keep the ashes and dust from whatever. It just keeps everything clean in there. And so nothing ends up tasting or smelling like wood stove. And so that works really good for dehydrating. And then, of course, the top of that, I have 2 of these kind of trivets. And so I can set stuff directly on that. And then I have, like I said, several of these little grills tops, that come from a barbecuer. I have these all over the place. So there's actually one right under these and on top of the drying rack to give it support. And then I can set anything on there, because when I'm in here cooking and, preparing things, I need a lot of places to set things. 2 coffee pots, I have the teapot, and then I might have a bowl of something, especially if I'm making like the coconut battered fish and I got to dip it, and I have to have the fish. I have to have something to put the fish in once I've cooked it up, and then I have to have the batter so I can dip it in. So that's why I have several things. So right behind me here is, I don't think you can see it right here, is what this is for holding kindling. And we rigged it up so we got one of those grills right there. And then I can use this. Typically, you can see right now I've got the 1 coffee pot, which I need to get some more coffee going because that's when I perk the coffee in. And then my teapot. But I can move these anywhere, like on top of here, to get them out of the way if I need the space for something else. And so then obviously the kindling. And then you'll see under here, as you'll see in this clip, I've got 3 different trivets. 2 of the trivets have taller legs and 1 trivet has real short legs. That is how I am able to adjust the heat on whatever I'm cooking. Say I'm making rice and I've got a good hot fire going because I've got something else going, but I need to cook the rice on low. I'd simply put them on one of these trivets, and depending on how hot the fire is or what it is I'm wanting to put up there will depend on the size or the height of the trivet I use. And then over here, it is a little stainless steel oven that we bought. I'll put a link to the video I did on this. And I don't use it much, but we bought it so we could use it on top of the wood stove in the case of a power outage when I need to actually bake something like bread or pies, where it's not like you can't do that on the wood stove. They just don't get brown on top. And that's why we got this, so we could have something to have it enclosed, biscuits and whatnot. And so I did do a video on that. I have made some bread and biscuits in it. I haven't made a pie in it yet. But in the meantime, in between, I just got this crocheted thing that I made. It serves as another surface area for whatever I need to put up there. I even have some spoon rests sitting there that I'll put soup spoons, sauce spoons, whatever there. And so that works really good. This is actually really new. So now under there is where that cabinet is, where I store the newspapers. And then in the cabinet, right in the little shelf unit right next to it, because we got new end tables for the living room, and that used to be the end table next to our love seat. So what I did was I moved that over here to use that as another place to set things. So what I have sitting on top is, you'll see there's a hand crocheted hot pad for if I need to put the coffee or tea way over there to get it out of my way. And then I have a couple of jars of spice, because that's what I add in my coffee. One's just a mixed spice and the other one is cayenne pepper. And especially in the wintertime, I love adding that to my coffee in the morning. So I come in here, pour my coffee, and then I add that in, and it's really good. That's how I drink my coffee. But then on the lower shelves, what you'll see is I have a basket full of more clothespins. And then I also have I'll actually grab it out. You'll see it in the clip, but this is something I picked up at a garage sale, just like all of my trivets. I picked these all up at garage sales, by the way. This is actually like a plant stand, but this is if I just need to keep something warm and need to set it up even higher than what my regular trivets can do. So that's why I have this. It's been really handy. I don't use it as often as the trivets, but there have been times where I really needed this because we had a super hot fire going to do something else. And I just needed something to keep things warm without cooking them any more than they were already cooked. But anyway, that's my kitchen setup so far. Over there is my office, because this is where I do all my video editing, and I have a separate video on that I'll link to down below if you want to learn more about that section over there. And I'll also be linking to the video I did a few years ago on cooking on a stove like this, because this is not a cook stove. Like, we just don't have a good space here for a cook stove, though I'd love to have one, a wood cook stove. This is just a standard wood stove that you'd use for heating, but I've learned through the years the best way to use it for cooking and even baking. And so I have a video just on that I'll link to down below, and any other videos that I think that would go right along with this to kind of help you understand our little setup and how we make things work for us. I'll link to those as well that you might just find interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you a few ideas of ways you can maybe maximize your area if you're like us and you're having your wood stoves in your living room and that is what you're using for cooking, especially during the winter months or during power outages. Then I hope this video was helpful to you and gave you a few ideas. And thanks for watching. Take care. And God bless.